The Twins drop a game 3-1 to the Guardians, fall to 3-4 on the season, 14 strikeouts, 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. We're going to talk about all of it. This is your Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to another edition of the Locked On Twins postcast. I'm your host, Brandon Warne, and you can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And joining me this time around, CJ Baumgartner. You can follow him at BaumCJ30. That's BAUM. CJ, what's up?
It could be a little bit better after watching that Twins performance, 2 games in a row of really, lackluster performance with runners in scoring position. Other than that, doing pretty good.
Well, that's a pretty big caveat there. Thanks for making Locked On Twins and podcast both your first listens every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as here on YouTube. Hopefully you're joining us and having a good time there. Feel free to hit us up in the comments. We'll get to them if we have time and the ability to. But again, thank you so much for checking this out. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, story of the day, one of the stories of the day. Twins strike out 14 times, go 0 for 10 with 0 for 11. Sorry, I missed one there. 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. 0 for 23 in this series so far with runners in scoring position. Can I get, let's say, 1 to 10 concern level with this offense right now, CJ?
10 being really, really concerning and 1 being not very concerned. I'd say it's probably, early in the season. I'm trying not to get too carried away. I'd say it's got to be like a 6 or a 7, though, especially because if you look at what we saw in the early part of 2023, it was a lot of the same, where it felt like they could never quite get that hit with runners in scoring position, a lot of strikeouts. So it's not that I'm looking at these first handful of games in a vacuum, but that combined with what we saw at the beginning of last season, I'm not ready to hit full-on panic mode because as we saw last year, they did turn it around, but if it's going to take them a whole half of the season to figure things out again with the way the Tigers and the Guardians are playing to start the year, they might not get the luxury of kind of having that time to catch up.
Yeah, again, Twins fall 3-1, 3-4 on the season. Guardians are 7-2, and where that's notable to me is it's all on the road. So that their road record has a nice cushion to where it's not unreasonable for them to play just decent ball on the road the rest of the way and be 500 away from Progressive Field. So we'll see what exactly happens there. But again, yeah, Twins strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. After the Alex Kirilloff triple in the first, the Twins were 0 for their next 26 with 13 strikeouts and 6 walks. Correa gets the single in the 9th, and then 14 strikeout comes via Alex Kirilloff with a swing and a miss. Yeah, that's where I missed the runner in scoring position. The defensive indifference that brought Correa down to second. I was trying to rack my brain, like they weren't at second base hardly at all. What, where did that come from? And that's why I missed it. I didn't have it on my format. But 0 for 23 and runner stranded after runner stranded, 11 in this game. I would say my concern level is like a 6.5, which is funny because yours was a 6 and a 7. So I'm not like sounding the alarm. I'm not, trying to really make some different things happen with the offense. But I'm also like, okay, Matt Wallner, you got to make contact on pitches down the middle. Or Edward Julian had a plate appearance in the I'm trying to remember which inning that was, but he just stared one right down the pipe. Oh, 5th inning. Yep, it was a 3-2 pipe job. I said on my my format here. It's like, do you want to drive in runs or do you want to move the line? And when Joe Mauer used to walk, it was like, okay, he was getting borderline pitches and he was getting, he was staying true to his zone. With Julian, I'm not on his side after that one. You got to swing the bat.
Yeah, I mean, that's been something I've been kind of with you on the last couple days. I keep retweeting my own tweet from Thursday afternoon, which was like, Julian, my guy, you got to protect the plate a little bit. And that one that he stared at wasn't even, like you mentioned, that wasn't even a borderline pitch. That's one that you got to put the bat on.
Yeah, and the Bieber one in the opener, at least with a 3-2 count, it wasn't a fastball. It was I think it was a slider or like a breaking ball, and it was bases loaded. You do not expect a young pitcher like Bieber, second year guy, to throw that pitch in that spot. You tip your cap. It was a great execution of a great pitch. Meanwhile, Julien, up in the count, and it's like he shuts off all. It's like a car that shuts off at a red light and then kicks back on when it needs to go. And I don't think that's where he needs to be at this moment. Again, I like the walks. I appreciate the walks, but man, that one turned me from on his side to like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough because, like you talked about, you want to give him like the benefit of the doubt, and he does have a great eye at the plate, and he can be a guy that can move the line forward. But when the offense is in a spot where they're just not getting big hit after big hit, and they're missing those opportunities, it's not a move the line forward and set up for the next guy to get the opportunity. You kind of need to take advantage and be the guy to get that hit and to try and get a spark really in that spot.
Now, don't get me wrong, Julien at the leadoff spot with guys like Correa, Kirilloff, Buxton behind him, that you want to drive in the runs. I understand knowing your role, embracing it, doing your part to move the line, but not on a pitch, a fastball, middle, or I was off the plate a little bit, but I think that's no issue to him. He can kind of cover the plate out there quite well. So I'm at about a 6.5 with this offense. We'll have a lot of umpire talk in our second segment. Carlos Carrasco on the mound kind of felt as though that should have been a good chance too for the Twins to get right today. But again, I want to go down before we go to break. After the Alex Kirilloff triple, the 0 for 26, this is how ugly it was. Fly out, strikeout, 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 walk, strikeout, walk, strikeout. It's like they're playing tic-tac-toe there. Fly out, strikeout in the fourth. Hit by pitch error, strikeout on Julien. Correa into that double play that got overturned, and then Kirilloff rolls over to second. Hit by pitch, walk. There was that crazy play with Rocchio where he flipped the ball. Wallner gets hit by a pitch, which seems like a daily occurrence at this point. Jeffers strikeout, Castro strikeout. Julien walks, Correa walks, then you got a grounded double play, and Buxton grounds out. Eighth inning, you got a pop to short, strikeout, walk, fly to right. It's like you just can fall asleep to it. You could literally set your sleep timer to it. Castro 3-2 right down the middle in the ninth inning. Julien flies center. Correa gets a single, and then Kirilloff has a great plate appearance. 8 pitches, and they went cutter, slider, cutter. Like it was all sliders, all cutters. And for I guess for me, what would be hard is because Clase has so much in the tank with his big velocity, it's got to be hard to kind of differentiate those two because they're both cutting, but like at different rates and different speeds. Just a difficult plate appearance in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and Morneau likes to talk about this a lot on the broadcast too, like the shadows, especially during that point in the game, can make things tough for a hitter too. And, it's Clase and Duran. They're two of the top closers in baseball for that reason, is it's just so tough to get them timed up and to get that going. Kirilloff, like you talked about, put a good AB together. But when you're down, and I think he was down for most of that bat 1-2. And when you're in that spot, you're always on the defensive as a hitter. And that pitcher has his full arsenal, his full bag of tricks there. And, like you talked about, he's got all of that he can use. And you just kind of have to guess and hope you're right. And he just wasn't able to have that happen.
Well, and another part of that doesn't help is, especially in the Wallner plate appearances, the strikeout zone seemed to be floating around. So that bit of questioning in the back of your brain, in addition to facing tough pitching, I mean, all those things are a factor. Let's take a quick second, give some love to our friends at Robinhood. And then when we come back, I want to talk about that umpire, Brendan Miller, because I'm not happy. So again, first, a word from our friends at Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. Because get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for the legal info. Claims are as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. You must keep the Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing, and Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. CJ, I don't know if I was prepared to say all those things in order. It's almost like I get a drink of water. But, we have actually a couple of comments I did want to get to. Jacob Tobin says, I am getting 2023 Twins PTSD. Thanks for the comment, Jacob. For me, the early season where, again, like you're just look at the bullpen, how that's performing, and look at how the starters for the most part have figured it out. Bailey Ober, tough start, but the Royals can hit a little bit. It's the first start of the year. These things happen. It feels a lot like, and I actually made this comparison too, early season Vikings, where it seemed like they were fumbling on every other possession on offense. And yeah, we all believe they'll get right in the shortish medium term. But in the meantime, you're seeding a lot of early season divisional games that will matter in the standings just as much as the ones you play down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, it's the beginning of that 2023 season where it took them so long and the pitching was so good and it felt like they were wasting those opportunities. And that was a prime example, losing 3-1, where it's a quality start for Joe Ryan when he gets 6 innings, only 3 runs, and he gets the Twins in a position to win that ball game, and they can't muster up more than that. And especially a lot of the early 2023 Twins where you'd make a starter, like I can't remember, it was Kluber in Boston or something like that, where you just made him look really effective when at this point in his career.
It was a whole series. Yeah, it was not a good series.
Right, exactly. And with Carrasco today, it looked like the Twins were going to jump on him early. They took a lot of good at-bats. Like the process was good. They just couldn't come up with that big hit, and Cleveland knew it. They pulled out Carrasco early, but that was your opportunity. It felt like in the first inning was to really hang a crooked number and set the tone, and they weren't able to do that. And that's a lot of what the 2023 Twins did as well.
And on the pitching side, Joe Ryan did set the tone early. 3-pitch strikeout of Steven Kwan, like that. That's like that impossible to get spot on your Twingo card, because that dude does not swing and miss. And it was a splitter and a nasty one at 91. I thought his velo in both of his starts this year have spiked early and then I think kind of settled in. I'll be curious to see how long that continues, because obviously the adrenaline's still a little higher, first home start of the year and that sort of thing. But, we'll see where it goes from there. But in the second inning, this is where things got dicey, and really the only time they got all that dicey. Josh Naylor got hit by a pitch, and that seemed to be a pretty key theme for the whole day. I mean, everybody seemed to be getting hit left and right. I was wondering if somebody was going to be like, oh, it's intentional, when it very obviously wasn't. But you get the fielder's choice, Brendan singles to right, Naylor flies out. But Naylor had a pitch that he should have been rung up on. I think there was it? Yeah. The strike zone, like you could tell the strike zone in the second was already not where it needed to be. Now, again, that doesn't take away from Fry homering on an 83-mile-an-hour sweeper. That's like middle, like every way you can be right down the middle. He capitalized. He did what he had to do, hit that one well into the upper deck there at Target Field. But it just felt like it was going to be one of those days. And again, if it was on both sides, I would get it. But I think the umpire scorecard, and if you're not following that, just Google umpire scorecard, and they come out the next day and next morning. If you ask me, maybe it won't be the entire 2-run difference of the game, but I feel like it's going to be pretty bad. And Tom Fremming, who's a YouTuber and all that, doing Twins content, had a really good tweet that showed like these are the pitch locations that were called strikes today. And he posted in the 8th inning. The 9th inning doesn't really matter that much for the point. But if you go find that tweet, it's embarrassingly bad. I'm not saying it's going to be a 2-run swing, but it's going to be something that we're grumbling about until first pitch when the Twins play again.
Yeah, exactly. And you made a point earlier with that strike zone is it does have a psyche for some of the Twins hitters. Some of those borderline pitches you do have to offer at, or a pitch that, normally you'd lay off early in the count, you maybe have to offer at because you think that it's going to be a strike and you're just not comfortable at the box. And those pitches were bad. And it was really fascinating getting to hear Justin Morneau on the TV and getting to hear him talk about it. First of all, he's great. Has been great this season as always, but really fascinating to get inside his head and talk about what's going on up there. And it's just frustrating because when everybody around you is getting, and I get everybody's all Twins people, but I've seen some Guardians fans online try to say, well, it's really good pitch framing and everything. I mean, you can't frame a pitch that's at Wallner's ankles. Like there's no amount of framing in the world that can work on that. And it does matter in the game. And Popkins, I know, got tossed. It looked like Rocco was getting ready if there was one more bad inning. But I mean, like you said, it didn't matter at the end. The Twins had their opportunities and didn't cash in, but it's just one of those where that umpire scorecard is going to look really ugly tomorrow.
Yeah, it could be a bloodbath. Yeah, Morneau did two things that I thought were interesting. And that conversation you brought up about kind of how you can't let a strike zone infiltrate your mind too much because you still have to stay true to the zone, because when you expand is when you get yourself out, and then you are basically double defeating yourself. The pitcher's trying to get you out and you still are getting yourself out besides. That's obviously a huge issue. But I thought Morneau was also about as critical as he's been ever about umpiring. And I think some people online were like, maybe the TV people didn't exactly like that. And you kind of toned it down or walked it back a little bit. But I think it's great to have that voice where he speaks up when he really feels like the team is being slighted. And at the same time, too, like he can break down things that are happening game within the game. He had one thing where he's like, and that's where it's different if you're a first-handed or left-handed throwing first baseman versus right-handed. Like that game within the game stuff that you can explain to make some of these smaller points a little clearer. I know it was Bert Blyleven's birthday today, and I don't want to ever say anything bad about Bert, but it's a stark difference to when Bert did that job.
Yeah, and another point that Morneau made speaking of the bad calls was one of them to Carlos Santana, where Santana, because of the pitch clock, had to get right back in the box and couldn't really get in. And Morneau offered kind of a critique of the pitch clock, where it's a guy doesn't get a chance to kind of walk around, take that circle, and kind of get himself back in. He's got to go right back in. If you're the pitcher, obviously you're quick pitching him a little bit, like you're wanting to kind of keep that flow in your side. And that's one where it did feel like Santana just had no time to recover from that and was able to, I believe it was a strikeout on that one too. So again, just one of those game within the game things that came back to bite the Twins because of that strike zone.
Yeah. Carlos Santana hitting a $154 with a 192 slugging. I didn't expect him to light it up. He is taking his walks, but we're going to want to see more from him sooner rather than later. I feel though, like the one thing that was especially frustrating to me, like I got it in the opener, the home opener. It was Tanner Bybee. Tanner Bybee is nasty. This is Carlos Carrasco. I mean, he was so bad the Mets didn't want him anymore. And I love a good comeback story. And I'm not saying he's a story. I'm not talking about anything other than coming back to Cleveland. It's cool that he's back in Cleveland. I'm not talking about where his career has been in terms of health and all that. It's cool that he's back in Cleveland. It just is. But to have him completely stymie you for 3 innings. I mean, he walked 3, gave up a hit, and 6 strikeouts. 6 strikeouts to a 37-year-old Carlos Carrasco in 3 innings. Like, again, I'm not saying everything needs to change. I'm not trying to set anything to fire, but this is got to be a kind of, oh man, this is how bad it's gotten reality check this early in the season.
Right. And again, he's not what he once was, and he really wasn't that effective either today. He was a guy who tried to nibble, and the Twins again had some good approaches, made him throw a lot of pitches, and again, you strike out like you talked about all those times against him, and it just felt like outside of Kirilov's triple, they never had anything going. And again, small sample size. It's early in the season. Not trying to say that the season's in jeopardy or anything, but also you have to call out a bad game when you see it. And the Twins did not have a great game in terms of actually swinging the bat. Thought their approaches were good for the most part. Thought they, again, made him throw a lot of pitches. Again, he's not going to throw it over the zone a lot. He's going to try and nibble, and they made him work at it, but they were never able to take advantage of a mistake that got sent their way. And that's what ended up being the difference, because Cleveland got a mistake pitch from Ryan, and they took advantage, and that's why they got a 3-1 win.
Carrasco's line is a real trip. 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run. It wasn't a homer. It was because of walks. Walks 3, strikes out 6. And so you look at 78 pitches, 42 strikes, and you're like, oh man, that's pretty ugly, right? And then you're thinking, oh, he probably went 5 innings, whatever. No, 3 innings. So, I mean, they got to him for 26, literally 26 pitches on average per inning. And the walks play into that, the strikeouts play into that. But it just seems like the trigger for when a pitch is there just isn't quite being engaged. So let's take a quick second and give some love to FanDuel. When we come back, we'll wrap things up, put a nice bow on it with some Guardians news, and then we'll look at the finale here coming up on Sunday. If you're not playing FanDuel, you need to be. The sports calendar is loaded right now, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Locked On is swamped. We've got all our sports in season right now, so it's a great time to get in on this, because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on if you want to do the tournament that's coming to an end here very, very soon. I know we got the women's finale already set, Final Four coming up. MLB, NBA, NHL, all of those either starting or down their home stretch. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Yeah, so tough news for the Guardians before the game. Shane Bieber is going to have Tommy John surgery. He's going to miss the rest of this season and probably a decent chunk of next. And, is it kind of like a Brandon Woodruff situation where maybe you sign a guy who's going to be out for a while and hope that they recover, and then you get the second year of them? Because the Twins did that with Michael Pineda. Somebody else did that with Drew Smiley that same offseason. I think it was the Cubs, maybe. So that might come into play, but will it be with the Guardians, who never seem to spend any money? And then where do they go from here? I mean, they're 7-2, but now you got people saying, well, will they trade Class A? Will they, really turn it over to all these youngsters? They kind of already have. You feel bad. Like, you never, ever want to see a bad injury like that in your division. Your mind goes to, well, that will make them weaker in the division, but just a bum deal all around.
Right, exactly. For him to go out like that, it just stinks, because as a team, you want to see him pitch, even if he's
pitching well.
Division. Right, exactly. I don't think he gave up an earned run in his first 2 starts. He was on fire to start the year. And now the fact that he's gone, for Cleveland, it's rough, but you also remember they're Cleveland, and they're going to find somebody in their minor league system who's going to come up and give not the same level of production, but a very good amount of that production pretty soon. And that's what Cleveland's strength has been. So for Cleveland as an organization, obviously it stinks that they don't have a Cy Young caliber candidate up top, but they're going to keep doing what they've always been doing, and that's find all these pitchers to come up through their farm system.
It's like they mass produce pitchers that come up and have like a league average strikeout rate, a 3.8 to 4.2 ERA, and they're just kind of chain movers, like your sturdy number 3s. And then every now and then a guy spikes up and becomes Bieber, or spikes up and becomes, any other guy. Bieber is that guy right now. The starter on Sunday, they're hoping will be that guy. It's going to be Tristan McKenzie, who real thin, wiry guy, had missed much of last year with arm problems, did not have a strong first start. But speaking of that, Bailey Ober's going for the Twins. So we're talking about 2 guys who, we mentioned Carlos Carrasco as a potential get-right game for the Twins offense, and it wasn't. This is a potential get-right game for both of these pitchers, and I want to say something's got to give, but, they could both come out and pitch poorly, and it could be a 10-8 game at the same time.
Right, exactly. And the way the Twins offense has been going, I'll probably lean more towards we're going to be back to a 2-1 game, whoever it ends up coming out for. But yeah, Bailey Ober's looking to shake that off. It's felt like, because there was the off day on Monday and the off day on Friday, that it's been forever since Ober had that pitch. It'll be a full week since he's gotten back on the bump. And I think he needs to get out there and just shake that off, because that's feels like all everybody wants to talk about is that first start and how he didn't look good. And especially because it's an important year for him, that guy needs to get back out and pitch again, and we'll see what happens. I have my fingers crossed, because that guy is a good pitcher. And after a rough start, the law of averages states that it's going to be a good one coming back.
Well, let's hope so. I want to ask you this before we take off. Do you think there's anything to maybe the hitters not being in rhythm because of all these like choppy off days? Because I mean, I don't think so, but I look at the talent, and we actually had a comment in the comments where that's where comments go, is the comments said, unfortunately, they're getting fed a huge number of breaking balls and haven't been able to adjust yet. That's a great point by Reese. And he also says that they keep getting guys on base with plenty of run scoring chances. Theoretically, they should start converting. Yes, it's so easy to get down on it because I think those looking strikeouts, they just like demoralize a fan enough that they start to believe nothing good will ever happen again. Then you add in that Minnesota sports fans are naturally pessimistic, and I can understand why the discourse goes where it does. I don't like it. I don't want to be a part of it, but I understand it. So, like the offense should be able to come around. I don't think the rhythm is off because of days off, but they also haven't faced very good pitching. So anything's in play right now as far as a theory is no harebrained as it may be.
Yeah, it's such a small sample size. Everybody's trying to glom on to the first thing that they really have to try and get some answers. And I get it because there's not a ton to go off of yet. But the sliders thing has definitely been real. It feels like that's been a clear game plan against the Twins. And it's that natural adjustment. How quick will it take them to make the counterpunch, and how effective can they be in that counterpunch? The off days don't help. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to chalk everything up to not playing every single day. Now they'll get their opportunities because they don't have, I think they maybe have one more off day the rest of the month or something like that. They're going to play a lot of games in
but
a lot of
White Sox. They're playing the White Sox, and they have one other team in the NL, I think, like National or something. It's like, it's not a tough stretch to end the month. So you hope you can get right.
Right. Exactly. And they have the Dodgers, I think, coming to town early next week. So
that's the next one.
That one will kind of even things out. But, and I mentioned this on the post-game episode on Thursday afternoon, which was the Twins last year were 15th in the first half of 2023 in plate appearances with runners in scoring position, which was middle of the pack. And that's when they were not effective with runners in scoring position. And then in the second half of the season, they were 7th in baseball in the second half with plate appearances with runners in scoring position. The strikeout rate actually stayed the same, which was very fascinating, or relatively the same, like by 0.4%. So it's like Reese said in the comments, they're getting opportunities. It's just, can they, the law of averages states that at some point things are going to break through and they're going to get that big inning. And the Twins did this a lot in early 2023, whereas 1 run game, 1 run, 2 runs, 11 runs. And I'm waiting for that 11 run game to happen sometime soon.
We all are. Are you hanging with me tomorrow too?
I think so.
Yeah. So we'll try to keep this good train going here with the Locked On Twins postcast. But yeah, it's going to be Tristan McKenzie, Bailey Ober, 1:10 p.m. Make sure to check out on SiriusXM, by the way. Just search Twins on there. You can get, I almost want to say Corey, you can get Chris and Danny with the local call. They're doing some stuff with us here at Locked On. So again, check it out. We're very happy to give them a shout. But hey, make sure you check out Locked On Twins. And for now, this is Brandon Warne signing off with CJ Baumgartner saying we'll see ya tomorrow night.